Good evening, Dr. Ladujure. Are you close to your mic? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Good evening.
I just want to be sure that I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you. Today seems to be on off for you. I'm still busy. I'm trying to admit two emergency patients. So, but
You are the
let's see
one
how
on
it goes.
call?
Yes, so
Is there
let's see
anybody that will be the coordinator?
how it
Or
goes.
are you the coordinator for
Let's
today?
see. By the time people come here, I'll try and see if I can get people to get someone to anchor.
Because I can ask Dr. Yetunde
Lesson
to
I
coordinate if you are not going to be available.
yeah, it's fine. You said?
Eh?
Don't come again. You
Do you
said?
want me to ask Dr. Yetunde whether she will be able to coordinate today?
Yes,
You have
fine,
told me
fine,
that
fine.
you're on call, so that I look for somebody.
Yes, yes.
Let me ask her when
Yes.
she
Let me
will
even
be
make you let
available.
me make you host now so that it will also be help me to be able to
So that I can share. You
yes
need to, you can make
so
me
that I
co-host so that I can share my
can also
slides.
add uh so you can share your screen. Let's see how it goes.
Why is it saying one participant can share at a time? I'm clicking on share.
Share, it will allow you to share.
Okay, yes. Now, yeah, it's fine. No, before I couldn't see my
It will
screen.
allow you to share. It just
It's okay. You can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen very clear.
All right. Okay.
Let's just give we still have like 11 minutes.
No problem.
Uh, So, Dr. Wako, so maybe let's give like 5 minutes. Then once by yes, 8:07, we'll start. Thank God, at least we have hey, Dr. Yetunde, quite an age. Thank you for joining. Hello.
Hello, ma'am. Hello? Eh? Hello, Chief.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
You're very much welcome to tonight's discussion. We'll just give a few more minutes for more people to join in, and we would start quickly. Thank you so much for joining in early. I want to use the opportunity to recognize our elders in the house, our consultants, Dr. Shodipo, Dr. Badmos. You're very much welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Our senior registrars, Dr. Tama, welcome. Dr. Yetunde, Dr. Bolu Joko, the Chief Reg of Lasut Family Medicine Department, Dr. Shoyemi, You're very much welcome. And of course, our speaker is on the line as well. We will be starting by 10 minutes past 8. So we'll just give 3 more minutes for people to join in, and then we would kick off. Thank you once again. Dr. Lagbe, you're very much welcome. Dr. Agwacha, we cite you, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining. Just bear with us, we'll start in 3 minutes. All right, I think I've been given a go ahead to start and others will join in. So our topic today is unmasking the hidden salt. And the person taking this topic today is none other than Dr. Nwankwo Chimuke. Dr. Nwankwo is a very passionate family physician with an interest in lifestyle medicine. And I think she's very sorry about that. I think she's very sound to take this topic, and I'm sure she has a lot to tell us about. Please, let's sit on our seats and get ready to learn. We'll have questions at the end of the session, so please keep your questions, or you can please put them in the chat box as the discussion is ongoing, and she will take them at the end. So, Dr. Nwankwo, you have the floor. Thank you so much for taking our time for this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Good. Thank you to everyone that have joined. So my name is Dr. Nwankwo. As she said, I'm a senior registrar from LASUTH. I have special interest in lifestyle medicine. I'm also a premium member of lifestyle medicine. So I've been asked to give this talk on unmasking the hidden salt. This is in keeping with the Hypertension Week, which we're celebrating, and also we're also celebrating the week for reduction in salt. So I'll just go ahead with my presentation. Then at the end, I can take questions at the end of it. My slide moving?
No, ma'am, your slide is not moving. We're still on the first slide.
Okay.
Can you stop sharing your screen and share?
Can you see my slides? Is it visible?
Your slide is visible, just the first page. Okay, it's no longer visible at the moment.
Okay. I'll just reshare. Let's see. Okay, right. Okay, so I will be going through my presentation using this outline. So as we all know, the World Salt Awareness Week is within 12th of May to 18th of May 2025. And the theme for this year, can you see my slide? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, very visible.
Okay. So the theme for this year is 6 ways to 6 grams. Why are we having this talk? We're having this talk because this week is World Salt Awareness Week, and we are celebrating knowing our numbers, being aware of how much salt we're supposed to take, and then the impact of actually consuming too much salt to our health. So the 6 ways to 6 gram just means stepwise practical approach to reducing salt from our diets. So I'll show you a wheel. So this wheel talks about 6 important parts that what we can apply on our day-to-day activities that will help us to actually reduce salt. But everything I'm going to talk about today would be revolving around these 6 ways. So we're going to delve into more details about how to actually reduce our salt intake. So we'll come back to these 6 ways. At the end of the day, you'll see that we would have gone through everything and in more details. So the Salt Awareness Week is a global campaign that is dedicated to creating awareness for individuals, communities, and also policymakers. The aim of the Salt Awareness Week is actually to make sure that we create our awareness enough, the impact to reduce salt generally in individuals, then it trickles down to the community, it trickles down to the policymakers, and overall, our aim is to improve public health in general. That's the overall aim of everything that we're doing here. So this is one way to do it. One way to do it is actually to log in, to learn, to get information, and then armed with those information, you can go out there and educate other people. You can also educate our policymakers. So we're going to delve into a lot of details, how we can do this with ease. So the strategy is to reduce food with hidden salts, because sometimes we don't even know that what we eat has a lot of salt, because we think, oh, it's not salty, so it doesn't have salt. So these are 4 ways that I have tried to bring out that we can use to actually intentionally reduce salt from our diets. So the 4 ways are the 4 R's: the realize, read, recognize, and replace. So we're going to take them one after the other. So realize, what do we mean by that? Know your daily salt recommendation. Is there anybody in this? Okay, let me go back before. My slide is not moving. Sorry, I'm having issues.
Your slide is moving on our side. We are now on realize.
Is it moving on your side?
Yes, you just
mine
moved
is
to
stopped.
realize.
I can only see. I'm still where I might need to stop sharing and then reshare, so that's, yeah. About that. Okay, so I wanted to ask a question before my slide stopped moving. Who can tell me, like, what is the daily salt intake for an average adult? Anybody can just unmute and let me know what you have in mind. Is there anyone that wants to speak?
Can I? Yes, can I?
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry. I think it's about, well, I think about 5 grams, if I'm correct. Well, you're going to correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. You are right. Depending on which site you're quoting or which study you're quoting, WHO recommends less than 5 grams. And then the Action for Health, which is another organization, recommends less than 6 grams. So if you say 6 grams or 5 grams, you are still correct. So it depends on which study you are quoting, actually. But that's for salt. But you know, the salt itself is different from the sodium that you need, because salt has other things combined together, like sodium chloride, which is a table salt. And then there's the sodium itself, the amount of sodium that should be in our food in 24 hours. So I'm going to be discussing all of that in details. So every time somebody joins, my slide gets stuck. I can't move until I stop sharing. Dr. Oladije, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Can you I don't want to be co-host because every time somebody joins, it interferes with my slides. So you can remove me as co-host, or will I not be able to share if I'm not
No, you can share.
So people joining late are interfering with my. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you can continue. I will work on the setting to make it that it doesn't disturb you.
Okay.
To allow people.
Okay. So realize the first thing is to know your daily salt recommendation, understand it. It's not just knowing the number, what does it translate to? Because when we also talk to patients, because I know in this group, we have both doctors and patients. So I'm going to try and use layman's word as much as possible so that I can carry the patient that are in the group in this meeting along. So I won't be using so many medical jargons. I will try as much as possible to talk in layman's words. So, but if there's anything you want me to clarify, you can always ask me later. So the global adult average in salt intake in general is twice what we are supposed to have in a day. We consume about 10.7 grams of salt in general. It's cut across all culture, it cuts across all tribes because the studies have been done. And it's equivalent to about 4,300 milligrams of sodium. That's what we consume on daily basis. But what WHO recommends is less than 2,000 milligrams per day of sodium, which translates to less than 5 grams per day of salt. Then the Health Canada actually recommends much lower values. It recommends about 1,500 milligrams per day, but not exceeding 2,300 milligrams per day. So what does this mean? For regular people, it just means that you should have in total, in 24 hours, your salt intake should not be more than 1 level teaspoon of salt. Everything you are eating and drinking in 24 hours for an adult. And this is even lower for children. Okay, so the common foods that are high in sodium, because our main talk is to discuss the hidden salt, food that have salt, but we don't know that they have salt. So processed food are the culprits. Also, prepared food in restaurants, they are also big culprits. You'll be surprised, bread is food that is very high in sodium. Breakfast cereals, pizza, sausage rolls, meat pies, and then what we call cold cuts. Cold cuts are like salami, all these meats that you can buy that are sliced into tiny pieces, and they put them on pizza as toppings. They are very, very high in sodium. And also sausages. I don't know if you have ever seen where sausage is made. They put like a bag of salt inside because I've watched it where they make sausage. Like a huge bag of salt goes into the mixture. Then certain cheese as well. Then the culprits in our environment here, because you'd be like, oh, I don't eat pizza, I don't eat sausage roll. The culprit here is salted crackers, noodles, instant noodles. Those powders inside the noodles, they have like, some of them have as much as 1,000 milligram of sodium in them, which is like half of what you need in 24 hours already. So if you eat one pack of those noodles with the whole salty condiment that goes with it, you've had like half of what you should have in 24 hours in just a meal. Then there are other foods, other things that people don't know contain a lot of salt is like salad dressings. So I don't want to mention brands, but most salad dressings, vinaigrettes, ketchups, then soy sauce. Soy sauce, we use it to season food. Then the biggest culprit in Nigeria, I would say, is the seasoning cubes that we use. And we tend to put a lot of it to improve the flavor of the food, improve the taste of the food. They are the biggest culprit for sodium, and which is hidden sodium that we're talking about. So the next R there is read. So after you've realized this is what I should take, now we all know the normal amount of sodium we should take, which is just 1 level teaspoon. While Health Canada actually recommend that you take half level teaspoon. But if you can't manage it, if the food is too bland, then in 24 hours, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about per meal. We're saying in 24 hours, everything you consume should be 1 level teaspoon of salt. So the next R is to read. So you read food label. I put an example of food labels here so that we can understand when we say read food label. These you find in packed food in supermarkets. Most food have this label. You just need to look at it. It will tell you the amount of sodium. Like this one is a bag of chips. It tells you the quantity of the amount of the chips and then the amount of sodium in that. So this one talks about 15 chips, which is 28 grams. It contains 140 milligram of sodium. And it tells you the percentage of that, if your daily allowance, so that you know how much. So if that bag of chips, if you finish all of it, you might have had all the amount of sodium you're supposed to take in 24 hours in just a bag of chips. So these are the things I want to point out to us so that we'll be more aware of it. Most packaged or processed food items, they have their labels, so you can read the labels and understand it. And there's something I want to point out here. WHO actually recommends avoiding any product that has more than 200 milligram of sodium per serving. So like this one now, it's okay to eat, but you must not go beyond each that 7 or 15 chips if you must eat this. Because if you go beyond 1 serving, then you'll be looking at 280 milligrams of salt, which is above what WHO recommends, that you should have any product you want to consume should not have more than 200 milligrams of sodium per serving. So the next thing I want to show us here is this. This is prepared by an organization, Action on Salt. These are some of the bodies that champion the cause of trying to reduce salt in our day-to-day diets. And they also try to bring up policies that would help us to be aware of the amount of sodium in our food. So this is one of the things. It's like traffic lights that tells you green means you are okay, you are safe. Orange means that you need to be careful here, and then red means danger. So for green, if you have any food that you want to consume that is a packed food, and you look at the sodium content, once it's between 0.3 grams, the salt content, I mean, is between 0.3 grams, it's okay. Per 100 gram of that food, then it's fine. You are safe, you can take it. But once you have something between 0.3 to 1.5, you need to be careful. That means that the salt content of that food is already a little bit on the high side. And if it's more than 1.5 grams of salt in that food you are intending to consume, this is a no-no. It means you should be walking away from that one, or try to look for alternative, which we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about how to replace things to make our food healthy and less salty. Now, the next R would be to recognize salt in different forms. So salt is not just, you will not see it as sodium chloride, you will not see it as salts in all the food, especially packed food, which is notorious. This is where they hide the sodium that we don't know. It's not even what we cook at. So most of the time, it's those packed food that we buy or tinned food, because the food companies, they want to make money. So they try to hide the sodium. They try to hide it in different fancy words. So if you see things like monosodium glutamate, that is still salt. It's still a form of salt. If you see baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, baking powder, disodium phosphate, sodium alginate, sodium citrate, sodium nitrate, they are all forms of salt, and they would increase your salt intake if you don't cut down on it. So these ones are also important to know. Then now we come to our last R, which is replace. Now we have talked about identifying. We recognize the salt. We know the amount we're supposed to take. So now we are coming to replacing it. What do we do? After we know that, okay, this is the amount of sodium I'm supposed to eat. These and this food contain a lot of salt. How do I now help myself? So we can replace salt. We can reduce the amount of salt. That's one. And we can replace it with some low salt alternative. Alternatives are like potassium salts. Alternatives are fortifying with natural flavors that I would be talking about as well as we go on. Then one thing I want to point out is that no matter what you are replacing salt with, just remember that salt must be fortified with iodine, because iodine is essential for healthy growth, especially in the fetus, in infants, and is important for healthy brain development, and also in optimizing our mental function. So it's important that salt is iodinized. So I just want to point that out so that we don't miss it when we're trying to replace salt as well. Now, I'm going to talk about swapping high salt ingredients for low salt alternative when you shop. So examples, I'll just give general examples, then I'll bring it home to what we eat, because some of these food here, they are kind of foreign. So like tinned food in brine. Brine just means there's a lot of, it's like salty mixture. So if you want to buy tinned food, let's say like tinned beans, some people that eat like maybe kidney beans that is in tin, and you want to add it to your food. So instead of buying the ones that are preserved in brine, you can buy the ones that are preserved in water. That way you can reduce the sodium content of what you're about to eat. Then alternatives, you want to get butter for people that eat butter. Instead of buying the salted butter, salted nuts, crackers, you can go for unsalted butter, unsalted nuts, and crackers. And over time, your taste bud will adjust to it. I can tell you that that is a personal experience that I have had. Over time, your taste bud tends to adjust, that when you now eat salty food, you find it a little bit too salty. Then things like packed salted popcorn, you can always go for unflavored popcorn. You can even buy the popcorn yourself and pop it at home. And then salad dressings, mayonnaise, you can replace these salad dressings with fresh herbs like balsamic vinegar and olive oil mixed together. Is very nice vinaigrette for your salads. And also you can put a bit of lemon juice. Then instant noodles. So instead of going for the instant noodles with the pack that comes with it, the powder that comes with it, that has, some of them I told you has more than 1,000 milligrams. I've looked at the labels and I've seen it. It's quite alarming how much salt is inside the mixture that comes with it. So you can make your own like your own condiment for eating your noodles. You can go for plain noodles, and then you can just make your own stock with vegetables, fish, or whatever. Then for pizza toppings, sorry. So for pizza toppings, instead of going for pepperoni, which is the cold cuts that I was talking about, very high in sodium, you can go for things like chicken, peppers, or mushroom, or sweet corn. You can use that to replace the pizza topping, and that way you will reduce your salt intake. Then instead of smoked food, go for fresh alternatives. So I know we eat a lot of smoked fish, but the fresh alternative is actually healthier if we can replace it. And then another example, marinade combination that you can substitute for salt, because I want to make this as practical as possible. So it's not just telling people, okay, reduce your salt intake, but how do you do it? So like chicken, if you want to prepare chicken, you can use honey with garlic, ginger, and olive oil to marinate it and keep it for like 30 minutes before you cook or you bake. But if you are the type that likes sweet, if you don't like sweet and you prefer sour, you can go with things like chopped fresh scent leaf, onion, and lemon juice. That will also give you an interesting, and then you can always add chili as well. And the chili will bring out the taste. Like if you can do black pepper, chili, thyme, and vegetables alongside with your combination. Then for sweet food, you like porridge, you can do cinnamon. Instead of adding salt, you can add cinnamon to it when you want to prepare it. And it will help to reduce your salt intake as well. So there are other examples here. Now, let's discuss a little bit about the health risk that is associated with excessive consumption of sodium. As we know, sodium is an essential nutrient in the body. So we'll talk about the health benefit, but let's talk about the most important thing, which is the major health challenges that we encounter with very consumption of high sodium. So excess sodium, the commonest thing that it causes in our environment is hypertension. And as we know, hypertension is the #1 cause of stroke in Nigeria. Not people sending it from the village or anything like that. No, not you, not your enemy sending stroke. No, it's actually high blood pressure. And excessive salts has been attributed, is one of the things that have been attributed to hypertension. And how does this happen? So what happens is that when you take a lot of salt, it's the way it affects your blood pressure. I'm just going to explain it in layman's language so that everybody on this group can follow. It will increase your fluid retention. So salt tends to hold water. And when this happens, it increases the blood volume. And when your blood volume increases, over time, it will increase the pressure within the blood vessel as the blood is flowing. So, and when you reduce salt intake, how it also works is the same thing in the reverse. So what it will do, it will reduce fluid retention. And when fluid retention is reduced, your blood volume reduces, and at the long run, it will lower your blood pressure, which is how some of the medications we actually use to treat high blood pressure works. Like the water pill, that's the diuretics. The way it works on a part of the kidney. What it does there is to send message and say, please stop absorbing sodium. So instead of absorbing sodium, it takes sodium out. And when the kidney is removing sodium, it will now carry water. So that way it will reduce your blood volume as well. And in the long run, it will reduce the blood pressure as well. So this is one of the major challenge we have with excessive salt intake. Now, we all know that stroke can cause premature death. Premature death will lead to socioeconomic problems. So you can see it spirals into something more and more that will affect not just an individual's health, but the health of the community. Because, for example, if the sole breadwinner happen to have a stroke, not able to pay school fees for the children, what happens? Those children are out of school. They're not able to attain the heights they would have attained in the society if they had someone paying school fees and they are able to finish their education. So you can see at the long run, it can affect different generations, not just one individual. Now, there are other rare things that high sodium can also affect. Surprisingly, it's not just the blood pressure. It can even cause gastric cancer. This is very interesting because I had to check this up and see that what it does is that sodium over time, there are different mechanisms that it can use, but I'll just explain them in simple ways. It can cause irritation of the lining of the stomach, and then it promotes certain chemicals that can now lead to cancer. But there is a study that I saw that's quite interesting. It was a study that was done in, I think it's Japan. It was Wu et al. That did this study. And they looked at what high dietary salt intake, how it affects the stomach and leads to gastric cancer. So they were able to figure out that the high dietary salt intake enhances carcinogenic effect. It increases a particular strain of H. pylori, called, I don't want to go into detail, but CAG-A. So that particular strain, what it does, it causes chronic inflammation in the stomach lining. Then it leads to ulcer, and ultimately it can cause cancer as well. Then osteoporosis. Osteoporosis just means that the bones are thinning out. So you have like really thin glassy bone, and it can break easily, the patient can have pathological fracture. So how does high salt cause this? So what it does is that when you consume a lot of salt, it tends to increase calcium being excreted through the urine, what we call hypercalciuria. So over time, it will cause a negative calcium balance, and this will now cause increase in bone resorption. So there's bone loss, which now leads to osteoporosis. High salt, it's not directly the cause of Meniere's disease. What it does, it can worsen Meniere's disease. Meniere's disease is a problem in the ear. Why I'm not going into so much details, this is not just an academic setting. It's a place where people that are not medics are also joining us, and they want to learn one or two things. So it's the same thing. The volume overload as well can also affect the ear, the pressure inside the ear. And you find out that when you place patients, there's a study that I saw that when it was done on 12 patients, that when they were placed on a low salt diet, they actually had improvement in their hearing. The pressure within their ear actually reduced as well. Then of course, kidney disease is almost the same thing, the volume overload, and then it affects over time, can also affect the kidneys. So are there any benefits to actually consuming sodium? We know that sodium is an essential substance in the body. So there are some very, very important benefits, like the maintenance of the plasma volume, which is what we've been talking about, then the acid-base balance. It's also involved in your nerve impulse, like transmission of information from the brain to different parts. Sodium gated channels are also involved, and also in regulation of blood pressure, and of course the normal function of the cells. You find sodium channels in the muscle, in the brain, everywhere. So it does have a lot of benefit, but at the same time, we have to be careful about how much we're consuming, because too much of it can be detrimental. It must be within the normal range. Now, taking control of your plate. This is the most important thing I want to talk about today, because my talk is actually to talk about the hidden sodium and how we can reduce it in our day-to-day lives. So the lower plate is actually my plate. So the more colors you have, the more nutrients you have. So nutrient-dense, whole food and plant-based, mostly plant-based. That's what we advocate. And then the one on the top with the avocado is also an interesting combination of different fruits and cereal, which are filled with antioxidants. So one of the ways to control how much sodium or salt we consume is to eat mostly fresh food if you can. Minimize the amount of processed food you eat. That is one way that you can reduce your sodium drastically. Then another way is to remove salt shaker from the table. So for those of you that have table salt in your dining table, you need to remove it. One is that you're also training your children not to reach out for salt and help to flavor their food. So their taste bud over time will adjust. Then cook with little or no added salt or sodium. Use herbs and spices to flavor your food rather than salts. Then replace regular salt with lower sodium salt. The alternatives or the substitutes are like potassium salt. You can get them from the supermarkets, departmental stores. They sell them there. Of course, limit the use of commercial sauces and dressings. So the salad dressings that we buy, I don't want to mention examples because I don't want to mention any company, but we know all the common salad dressings that are available. So limit them, and you can make your own dressing. You can make your own vinaigrettes. If you add balsamic vinegar and olive oil, mix it together and put a little bit of lemon juice, there you go. You have a very nice vinaigrette that you can use to eat your salad, and it tastes very interesting. Then limit the consumption of processed food. Processed food are food that have been changed from the natural way that they occur. So for example, things like corned beef, that's processed meat already. Things like sausage, that's whether it's sausage, beef, sausage, chicken, anyone, it's processed already. But if you go for the fresh chicken, if you go for the fresh beef with low fat, lean meat, that is okay if you're the type that likes steak once in a while. But of course, we recommend more of plant-based and food. Then choose food with lower sodium content or low sodium products. So, and I have given a lot of examples of those foods. Then cook fresh food at home. So you can see on the right side, there's a lot of fresh things that we should pick things like that and then prepare simple meals at home. Flavor your food with herbs or spices, garlic, lemon. Those are the things that will help you to reduce your salt intake. Then limit processed food and salty snacks. Like I said, the common salty snacks we have is like granules, because they do have they are salted, and then crackers. Then of course the tinned food that we eat. Tinned food are notorious for having a lot of salt in them. Rinse, one of the things you can do to reduce how much sodium you have in your food, especially tinned food, is to rinse them. So like if it's a tin of beans you want to use, maybe like kidney beans, you can decide to rinse it out with water, and that should reduce the sodium. Gradually reduce salt to retrain your taste bud. This one takes time, because initially when you try to reduce salt, you will find that the food is bland. But if you continue, you persevere, then over time you will adjust, your taste bud will adjust, and you will actually find that when you eat out, the food is a little bit saltier than you want it to be. Then policies to reduce salt intake. This is what we should be telling the government to do for us. So this is very important, especially for family physicians. We need to know this. So reformulate, what does that mean? Reformulate means that food products should contain less salts, and we should set targets to the levels of the amount of salt in food. That's green. We want to be sure that any food, any packed food, like what WHO recommends, should have less than 200 milligrams of salt, sodium per serving in that food. Then it's green. It means it's okay. You can have it. Then implement. What does this mean? It means for food that have high sodium, because food companies are notorious for hiding sodium. So you will not know that it's there. They will write low salt or no added salt. Then when you turn it, if you flip it over and you look behind and you look at the sodium content, some of them are more than 200 milligrams, which is what WHO is telling us. Be careful about eating packed food that have more than 200 milligrams per pack. So what these policies are talking about is that you should tell the food companies to write in bold and in red, high in sodium. So it's a warning sign so that every consumer can easily see it and interpret it. So before you buy, you can see for yourself that, oh, this thing is actually high in sodium. Should I buy it or should I not? So it will now be entirely your own personal decision, not that you were deceived. And then apply. Apply means what we're talking about now. We educate people, radio jingles, television programs where people learn about behavioral change, reducing salt from their diet, then they can now apply it in their own way. So behavioral change, communication strategies to reduce salt consumption, which is what we're doing. Then the fourth point is create. Create means to create a supportive environment in public institutions to enable lower salt options to be provided. So like restaurants, public restaurants where people eat, say like for ARD where we have our own cook preparing meals, they can decide to lower the salt intake, the salt that is inside the food that is being supplied to doctors. And then another thing is this creates, they actually implement it in airport food. The ones we eat in flight food, I mean, the ones we eat while we're flying. If you notice, those food, they're a bit bland, then they will give you the option of having extra salt or pepper in your food so that it's up to you now. They've made it with a standard, following WHO standard or Action for Health standard. There are other organizations as well that also try to champion the cause of ensuring that we have healthy food. Another one is World Action on Salt, Sugar, and Health. That's another organization, apart from WHO and Action on Salt. They all champion the same cause, trying to reduce salt. So there's a guideline whereby this is the amount of sodium that should be in the food. So people should be given the option of whether they want to add more salt or not. Let it be a personal decision. Then the last point there is to monitor. So what the government can do is to monitor the population salt intake, and then salt food content as well, like what the producers, the food companies are putting out there, to monitor how much sodium they're actually adding to the food. These are policies that can help us over time to reduce the salt intake in the food. In conclusion, reducing sodium intake is one of the most cost-effective measures to improve health. And this can reduce the burden of non-communicable diseases. And one major non-communicable disease we have in this country is hypertension. And hypertension is one of the #1 causes of stroke in Nigeria. So if we can reduce our salt intake just by a little bit, we can actually help to reverse all those changes of high blood pressure and overall reverse the avoid the complications that can come up with too much salt consumption. So this is the end. Thank you for listening. These are some of my references. Some of the references I used are not here. I will update it and then add it to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nwankwo. I really learned a lot. Thank you so much. Please let's give some reactions, drop your comments on the chat box. Dr. Nwankwo has gone through a lot. She has gone through a lot. She has discussed a lot with us. And to be honest, I would read the labels and I would not even read sodium. Let me confess my sins. I will just read sugar and all and go my way. So now we know to not just read one particular thing, but to read everything on the label, right? And like we would always preach in lifestyle, moderation is key. Who knew that excessive salt intake will cause gastric cancer or even worsen ear problems like Meniere's disease? Thank you so much, Dr. Nwankwo. She went all the way to talking about policy formation as to reformulate, implement, apply, create, and monitor. Well done. Thank you so much. On the chat box, Dr. Badmus says that one pack of noodles is 1,680 milligrams of sodium. Wow, that is a lot. Please, do we have any questions, any comments? We can raise our electronic hands or just put your
Dr. Gold, we
questions in the chat.
can't seem to hear you very well. Or is it my network? Okay. Okay.
Hello, am I being heard now?
Yes, I
Hello?
can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So some comments on the chat box says, thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you so much for this amazing lecture. Great one. All right. Please, if we have any questions or any comments, please let's raise our electronic hands. If you want to unmute or if you want to put your questions on the chat box, please do so. Your questions will be read out. Dr. Shodipo says, wonderful and wonderful presentation, quite insightful, truly very insightful. In spite of sodium having benefits, it also has its risk when taken in excess. Amazing.
Well done. That's a hand up.
We have a hand raised up. Dr. Luati, you have the floor, please.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thank you so much to the presenter, Dr. Nwankwo. It was a very insightful lecture and very practical. That was the amazing thing about the lecture. Even though some of those things that you mentioned that we can use as alternatives, some of us are not very used to them. Maybe now, after listening to this lecture, would be intentional about looking for those things, because really in this environment, many of us are not so lifestyle compliant. And please permit me, after now, I think I will have to come for a special consultation to improve my family's diet. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Nwankwo. It was a great one.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much, Dr. Luati. Yes, I think that's very correct. Some of us really need to go back and check all those things. And like she says, our tongue will really acclimatize when we start. Thank you so much, ma'am.
There's a
Dr.
question in the chat. There's a question there. Somebody,
Okay,
I think it's Dr. Badmus that asked that question.
yes, just hold on. Let me read a question from the chat box and we'll continue. So Dr. Badmus is asking, how do we quantify the amount of salt in our stews for those of us who make stews and soups in large quantity? Did you get a question, Dr. Nwankwo?
Yes. Is there any other question? So I can take all of them together, or I can take that one now.
Okay, let those raising their hands comment. If they have any questions, then you could take it together. But there's no other question on the chat box. So Dr. Tama, you have the floor, please.
Okay, good evening, our consultants present, and then thank you very much, Dr. Nwankwo, for the wonderful presentation, and thank you, our host, Dr. Busi, for this for choosing this topic for us to learn a lot from. So it's just a comment I have to make. Yes, other sources of hidden sodium. Thank God in lifestyle medicine we discourage most of these fizzling drinks, okay? That's Coke, Fanta, they contain so much of sodium benzoate. If you read the ingredient, it's there. Okay, then also part of the analgesics that we give our patients include that's diclofenac. Okay, we have diclofenac sodium. In fact, and sometimes you see, especially patients with chronic low back pain, we place them on those medications for a long period of time. So a good alternative we can use is the diclofenac potassium, like Cataflam and Voltaren. Okay, normally I advise my patients, especially those with cardiac issues, to choose the Cataflam, that's diclofenac potassium, which one, it will help even in their heart. Remember, potassium to some extent is a cardioprotective, so it can help them with that, and it's a good substitute for the sodium, which will prevent water retention. So that's just the comment I have to make. Thank you so much once again, the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Otama, for that insightful addition. Well done. Dr. Shodipo, you have the floor, please. Hello, was I heard?
Yes, you're
Dr.
audible.
Shodipo. Okay, thank you so much.
That's one. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Shodipo, we can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I think it's network issues here. Sorry. Good evening to everyone on the call, and thank you to the convener, Tola Gunjoye, and of course, the excellent presentation from Dr. Wankwo. I think we'll be needing the slides to really get some more information, and of course, all the comments about consulting with lifestyle. I actually, my own question or comment is just to ask that we know that this is a very serious issue because of even the challenge of hypertension in the young, which is the theme for, or which is the one of the major highlights of this year's World Hypertension Day. So I don't know, how can we use this information in terms of targeting younger people, because a number of times we are always targeting the older ones who, of course, everybody knows that as you grow older, the risk of hypertension is more. So people focus more on those lifestyle changes there. But what can we do in terms of younger people and trying to get the message across, especially for salt intake and its effects? Most of the people that eat shawarma and other unhealthy food that have, lots of salt intake are the younger population. So what kind of messaging can we get across that would actually make maybe taking something more difficult to take on a lot again?
Thank you so
Hello?
much, Dr. Shodipo.
Okay.
Can you hear
All right.
me?
Yes, I can hear
Yes.
you.
There are no more hands up
Okay.
and no
Okay.
questions on the chat. I think you can take all the
Yes,
questions
we
now.
can. I think it's going on. I don't know that it's my own network. Yes, we.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for your question, and thank you, Dr. Badmus, for your question as well. Is it okay if I answer the question now, Dr. Gould?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Ma. There are no more questions.
So let me start with Dr. Badmus' question. She said, what is the quantity of the amount of salt in our stew if you are making like a big pot of stew or soup in large quantity? So this is where your taste bud comes in. So what I advise is that if you are making stew, put in a lot of herbs. So like your herbs are like your chili, your thyme, your ginger, your turmeric, to your food, right? Especially if it's stew you're making. So it enhances the taste. At the end of the day, you can just add one cube because our aim here is to reduce your salt intake. Do you know that it's possible to cook without salt and the food will still taste good? Depending on what you're combining. I do it. And I have intentionally reduced salt for the diet for my children and my family, and they have gradually adjusted to it. We're still working on it every day. I mean, it's not like 100% win-win. There are still some days whereby some people will be like, I want this or this, but it's doable. So what I would advise, in a big pot of stew, you can put in 1 cube of your regular whatever spice you want to use, but then add natural ingredient to enhance the taste of what you're making. Okay. And then of course you can always put in, depending on the size of the stew you are making, that will determine how many cubes of the seasoning you want to add, and also the salt. But your salt should never be more than 1 teaspoon, because it's a big stew that you want to eat for maybe a week or so for the whole family. So, but there's something I want to tell you. Your taste bud is what should guide you. If you have trained your taste bud, if the food is becoming too tasty, it has too much salt. That's what I tell my patients. The food should be a little bit bland when you are eating it. Not bland as in spice, but the salty taste of it. If the food tastes that it is a little bit salty, it has too much salt. That's how I know that food has too much salt. But if this food is naturally spicy with natural spice, if you spice it up with natural spice, and it's just has little bit of, you can just notice there's a little bit of salt in it, then it's fine. So it's something that comes with training and then trying and experimenting, and you'll get it right. Of course, with packed food, it's easy because you can know the exact quantity of salt that is in it. That's why I said that notoriously, where you get a lot of salt is actually stew and soup, already prepared ones, because you don't know how much salt goes into them. So that's one way to do it. It's a practical thing, and it takes experience to get to where you want to be. But what I advise is, no matter how big your pot of stew is, please do not put more than 1 level teaspoon into it, even if you're going to eat it for a week. Use other natural things to spice it up, and it will still come out nice. Then for Dr. Shodipo's question, so yes, hypertension in the young is becoming a problem. I agree with you. And one of the ways we can reach out to the young is what we're doing here. One is that when we educate the older ones, what do? They tell their family, so it trickles down. Another thing we could do is to get this out to schools. Let there be more adverts, more information out there. Young people are technology savvy. So we could advertise, we could talk about salt, we could put up adverts online, talk about things that we can send out, even in our status. We can put this thing up on our status, and most of them are online. They're always checking things like that. We can use social media to reach out to the young, make our presentation colorful. Most people, I find that they are attracted to colors, they're attracted to bright things. So if you make the jingles colorful, interesting, you can put a music at the background that young people can connect with, they would listen. No matter how young a child is, if you tell them things over and over again, they would listen. My son is 10 years old, and he can tell you that, this food has too much salt. Mommy said this one. Oh, yeah. No, you can't. This one has too much sugar. So it's over time. If you keep having that discussion with them, they would learn to acclimatize to it. So if we teach the parents, it can also trickle down to the homes. Because if you look at the wheel, there's something I want to share again. Let me just share my slide again. That wheel, I want to go back there because there's something, yeah, this one, the 6 steps to 6 grams. So if you, can you see my slide? Is it clearly visible? Because I want to read something there. It says, take salt and salty sauces off the table so younger family members won't develop the habit of adding salt. So this is something that can be done in the family, that you remove salt from the table, and then you have this discussion with them that, look, even though you are young, if you eat too much salt, it's even worse for you than older people, because the salt intake of younger people are actually lower compared to adults. So for a child, for an infant, it's much, much lower. And then a neonate should not have any salt. Of course, they are only on breast milk, but then just to let everybody know, that means for medications too that you are giving them, you need to be careful, like what Dr. Thama was saying about making sure that it's not sodium based, that it's potassium based, things like that. So that's my own input on that question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nwankwo, for addressing those questions. Amazing. Okay, I think I'm seeing one more question in the chat box. It says, is teaspoon the one added to disposable packs? That's from OA.
No, sir, no, ma. Teaspoon is not that one in disposable pack. That one is in between teaspoon and tablespoon. The teaspoon we're talking about is the standard silverware teaspoon, and it has to be leveled. And that teaspoon is the amount of sodium salt you should have in 24 hours, because I want us to get this very clear. It's not what you eat per meal, it is what you are eating in 24 hours. So it means that your sodium intake should actually reduce drastically if you want to maintain WHO standard of 1 level teaspoon per day, because it's in 24 hours. Both what you are drinking, what you are eating, all the salt in it should be 1 level teaspoon per day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nwankwo, for addressing that. Do we have any more questions or any more comments? I think we've passed our hour mark. We're about passing. Dr. Ladunjoye, do you have anything to say before we close the meeting?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Gould, for taking up the task, first notice, and thank you very much, Dr. Nwankwo, for the wonderful presentation, taking up the task within the short notice and doing it excellently. And thank you very much for joining. For everyone that are joined. And the good thing is that this can easily go out. People can always see it, they can listen to it, they can read. And I think it's 6 steps. Maybe it can be a way to publicize it more. Maybe more organic for people to see on our statuses, as much as possible, let people know about it, and then we can bring it up. And also, I think I will also on my own try to make it a point of beauty now. At least if we do it yearly, at least in a way that we can be able to bring this up, because actually this is the first time I'm actually coming across it. And we can see that it's something that is very important, like Dr. Shodipo said, especially about the hypertension in the young. It's something we need to blow out there, because if you enter an military these days, is these younger people that are eating a lot of these salted foods. And they are eating it so much in law that they need to do something about it. So thank you very much for bringing it up, and this is recorded, it's live on YouTube. You can always listen to it and watch and share it frequently. So thank you very much for joining, and we hope public awareness, and we always share. Thank you very much for this. Good night.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you.